The whole idea behind the Basin and Range Province is that the Earth's crust is being pulled apart, and that causes fault zones to form. So the places where the rock drops along the faults, those are the basins, and where the rock has risen up along the faults, those are the ranges. Across the whole Basin and Range Province, there's alternating ranges and basins and ranges and basins. And there's some spectacular topography because of this. And you'd think, because I tend to personally work most with bedrock and I love being high in the mountains, that those are my favorite parts, to be up in the ranges. But actually, I find the basins to be fascinating because they're always changing. The basins are dotted with lakes, such as here the Warren Lakes, which has a lot of wildlife there, and typically pretty shallow lakes. But a lot of the lakes are dry, such as the Alver Desert near Steens Mountain. And even that lake bed, now called a playa, sometimes fills with water. And so you can go out there and there's wildlife, there's great reflections in the water. But eventually that water too will evaporate and leave behind the mud-cracked surface. Typically when water evaporates, it leaves behind alkali materials. And those alkalis are very fine grained and often get kicked up by windstorms, and they create some pretty spectacular dust storms, actually. This one is at Summer Lake, which is just north of Paisley. If you look at a physiographic map of Oregon, of the Basin and Range, you can see that these lakes are actually pretty small compared to the whole valleys. And that's actually, they're gradually getting smaller. During the end of the Pleistocene epoch, which started around 2 million years ago and ended about 10,000 years ago, that was the Ice Age, the climate was a lot wetter and these lakes were a lot bigger. So if you look at a map of the Pleistocene lakes, they pretty much filled the valleys. And we can see the evidence that those lakes were there because if you go around the edge of these valleys, you can see old shorelines, gravel bars, things like that. You can also find lake deposits, such as these ones near Lake Abert. And those tell you that sediment that got deposited in the lake gradually settled down and formed those layers.